Welcome to Present Poetry. I'm your host, Erin Crittenden, and all poems within this podcast are either public domain or used with permission from the author or the author's estate. It's a fun time for poetry lovers of all ages, so sit back, relax, and get ready to hear some poems of the past and the present. This week's featured poet is Robert Frost. Robert Lee Frost was born March 26, 1874, in San Francisco, California. His family moved to Lawrence, Massachusetts when he was 11, and he graduated from the Lawrence High School in 1892. Always a fan of writing, Frost published his first poems in the high school magazine. However, after graduation, he attended Dartmouth College for 2 months before leaving to teach and do other odd jobs, such as delivering newspapers and maintaining carbon arc lamps for a local factory. However, Frost never enjoyed these jobs because he always felt his true calling was to write poetry. In 1894, Frost sold his first poem to The Independent, a weekly magazine published in New York. To celebrate, he then proposed to his girlfriend, Eleanor Miriam White, who would only accept the proposal after she finished college. Frost waited, and they were eventually married in 1895. Robert Frost then attended Harvard from 1897 to 1899, but left due to an illness and retired to the farm that his grandfather had given him. Frost then settled into a routine where he'd write in the mornings and work the farm after, and this routine produced some of the poems that we know and love today. After his farming failed, Frost went on many adventures and eventually published his first poetry collection, titled A Boy's Will, in 1913. He then followed it with his second collection, North of Boston, in 1914. Following those successes, Frost launched a career of teaching, writing, and lecturing in 1915, specifically focusing on the myriad sounds and intonations of the spoken English language in writing. He called his colloquial approach to language the sound of sense. He won his first of 4 Pulitzer Prizes in 1924 for the book New Hampshire, a poem with notes and grace notes. He would win additional Pulitzers for his collected poems in 1931, a further range in 1937, and a witness tree in 1943. In 1960, Frost was awarded the United States Congressional Gold Medal in recognition of his poetry, which has enriched the culture of the United States and the philosophy of the world. It was formally bestowed on him by President Kennedy in March 1962. Frost died in Boston on January 29, 1963, of complications from prostate surgery. He was buried in the Old Bennington Cemetery in Bennington, Vermont. His epitaph reads, "I had a lover's quarrel with the world," which is the last line of his poem, The Lesson for Today, which was published in 1942. We are reading from his selected poems as published by Henry Holt and Company in 1923. This poem is called Going for Water. The well was dry beside the door, and so we went with pail and can across the fields behind the house to seek the brook if still it ran. Not loth to have excuse to go, because the autumn eve was fair, though chill, because the fields were ours, and by the brook our woods were there. We ran as if to meet the moon that slowly dawned behind the trees, the barren boughs without the leaves, without the birds, without the breeze. But once within the wood we paused, like gnomes that hid us from the moon, ready to run to hiding new, with laughter when she found us soon. Each laid on other a staying hand, to listen ere we dared to look, and in the hush we joined to make, we knew we heard the brook. A note as from a single place, a slender tinkling fall that made, now drops that floated on the pool, like pearls, and now a silver blade. This poem is called The Sound of Trees. I wonder about the trees. Why do we wish to bear forever the noise of these, more than another noise, so close to our dwelling place? We suffer them by the day, till we lose all measure of pace, and fixity in our joys, and acquire a listening air. They are that talks of going, but never gets away, and that talks no less for knowing, as it grows wiser and older, that now it means to stay. My feet tug at the floor, and my head sways to my shoulder, sometimes when I watch trees sway, from the window or the door. I shall set forth for somewhere, I shall make the reckless choice, some day when they are in voice, and tossing so as to scare the white clouds over them on. I shall have less to say, but I shall be gone. This poem is called The Tuft of Flowers. I went to turn the grass once after one who mowed it in the dew before the sun. The dew was gone that made his blade so keen before I came to view the leveled scene. I looked for him behind an aisle of trees, I listened for his whetstone on the breeze. But he had gone his way, the grass all mown, and I must be, as he had been, alone. As all must be, I said within my heart, whether they work together or apart. But as I said it, swift there passed me by, on noiseless wings, a bewildered butterfly, seeking with memories grown dim overnight some resting flower of yesterday's delight. And once I marked his flight go round and round, as where some flowers lay withering on the ground. And then he flew as far as I could see, and then on tremulous wings came back to me. I thought of questions that have no reply, and would have turned to toss the grass to dry. But he turned first, and led my eye to look at a tall tuft of flowers beside a brook. A leaping tongue of bloom the scythe had spared, beside a reedy brook the scythe had bared. I left my place to know them by their name, finding them butterfly weed when I came. The mower in the dew had loved them thus, by leaving them to flourish, not for us, nor yet to draw one thought of ours to him, but from sheer morning gladness at the brim. The butterfly and I had lit upon, nevertheless, a message from the dawn, that made me hear the wakening birds around, and hear his long scythe whispering to the ground, and feel a kindred spirit to my own, so that henceforth I worked no more alone, but glad with him I worked as with his aid, and weary sought at noon with him the shade, and dreaming as it were held brotherly speech with one whose thought I had not hoped to reach. Men work together, I told him from the heart, whether they work together or apart. This poem is called Revelation. We make ourselves a place apart, behind light words that tease and flout, but oh, the agitated heart, till someone really finds us out. A pity if the case require, or so we say, that in the end we speak the literal to inspire the understanding of a friend. But so with all, from babes that play at hide and seek to God afar, so all who hide too well away must speak and tell us where they are. This poem is called The Road Not Taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler. Long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I, I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Thank you for listening to this episode of Present Poetry. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review, share us on social media, or subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you would like to learn more about the featured poet, or you would like your work featured on the podcast, please check out the links in the show notes. Thank you again for listening, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.